So thank you all for coming. We're kicking off our programming today with a fantastic panel by Marc Horovitz, who's the editor of Automata Magazine. Did not exist the last time we had this convention, and so it's, I think, a great addition to our community and to the art forum, and really appreciate Marc putting that together. He puts out great content. If you haven't subscribed to it, I encourage you to do so. It's just a fantastic piece of work, and he's assembled a great panel here of people that have contributed to the magazine over the last couple of years. And with that, I will hand it over to Marc. So thank you, Marc.
Thank you, Brett. And thanks to all of you for coming, and also to Steve Ryder, who suggested this panel to me, and also our panelists, Alan Concquergood, Tom Haney, Vance Bass, and David Bowman. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. If you can't, please say something. First, I'd like to just start off with a little personal history. Like so many other people, I discovered Automata in 1985 on a trip to Great Britain when I accidentally stumbled across Cabaret Mechanical Theater in Covent Garden. And for me, that was a life-changing experience. And over the next many years, I've already forgotten to push the buttons here. There's Cabaret. So over the next several years, I've designed and constructed several automatons of my own. And for a long time, I felt that we needed a magazine that was directed specifically at this tiny little niche of the fine art world. Until 2018, though, I didn't have the time to devote to it. I have over 35 years of experience as a magazine editor, doing a magazine that was completely unrelated to this. In 2018, I was downsized and suddenly found myself with a lot of time on my hands. So I thought, this is a good time for Automata Magazine to be born. So the first issue appeared in January of 2019. I published it for 2 years myself with the help of my wife as a copy editor. And then I ran into some health issues, and I thought I would have to shut the magazine down. But some wonderful people came out of the woodwork and offered to help me keep it going. So today, I'm part of a team of 6 people, including my sister Sari in Denver, Sharon Fraser in Canada, Debbie Morgan in New Zealand, and Stephen Spicer and Martin Edwards in the United Kingdom. And through modern technology, this geographically diverse team works quite well together. It's really amazing to me, being of an earlier generation, how this all comes together. But why have a magazine at all? Everything you want to know about Automata is on the internet. While that may be true, I found this to be often hard to find, and the information that you do find is often quite superficial. People will show you what the projects they've made are, and they'll say, well, I made this in the past 6 months, end of story. And there'll be a little video of it going, and you have to figure it out all yourself. A magazine is able to explore specific topics through very in-depth articles. Some of these topics include profiles of artists, detailed examinations of specific works, overviews of collections, visits to places of automata interest, automata history, mechanisms, both simple and complex, current technology, construction tips, hints, how-to stories, articles for beginners, repair and restoration, and much more. In the brief 3.5 years that the magazine has been going, I feel that we've been pretty successful. We've published articles by over 100 authors from nearly 20 countries. And thanks to Jim Coffey, we have an active online forum where automatists can gather and exchange information. I try to balance each issue to include something for everyone. Our authors come from all over, and I receive manuscripts in many languages, including Chinese. Thank goodness for Google Translate. I enjoy working with the authors on a personal level. There's often a lot of back and forth on any given article, getting it into shape for publication. If I have questions, I always return to the author for clarification. I do as little rewriting as possible to maintain the author's voice in the story. For the magazine to continue, though, there's a constant need for new material. This type of publication is actually a partnership between the editor and the readers. My part is to put together each issue. I have to choose the material to be in it, try to create a good balance, and make sure the articles are well presented and clear in their message and information. The reader's part is to be willing to share in prose and photos what you've been doing, seeing, and thinking about as pertains to Automata. I hope that you'll all consider contributing to the magazine. Everybody has something to contribute, beginners and old hands alike. You should never think that what I'm doing is too simple, nobody would be interested. It's just not true. Everyone is unique, and making Automata is the perfect medium in which to express that uniqueness. People around the world are looking forward to hearing from you. I'll turn the discussion over to our panelists now, starting with Alan Concquergood. When everybody's spoken, we should have time for some questions and answers. So, Al, carry on.
Pass the mantle. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark and I, just make sure I get this going the right way here. Oops. There. Mark and I met in a previous life, not in person, but in knowledge, because we were both model-trained railroad enthusiasts. And that was a common thing that we had. We were both doing a little bit of automata work in Garden Railroad. So when Mark started the magazine, he called, and the magazine had already started, but he said, geez, I'd like to have you consider writing an article. And so I was scratching my head trying to figure out what to do. The magazine had already been going, so there'd already been some great technical articles and lovely lead-off articles for the magazine. So I thought, well, you know, I'm going to think about what happens to me when I'm out in the world. And when I go to shows, and I often go to woodworking shows to show my stuff, because there just isn't that many automata things. And reset my timer so I don't take too long. And people come up and they're fascinated by this because they don't often see this stuff around locally in Ontario where I'm from. But they ask two questions. One is, do you make all those gears yourself? And I say yes, and they don't believe me, but that's okay. We get over that part of it. And then the second question they ask, and it's often from the spouse of the person who's standing in the back, they say, well, how do you come up with the ideas? And that seems to be the one that people spend a lot of time asking about. And then they volunteer suggestions, and we get into some great conversation. So I thought when the article came up, hey, maybe that's what the audience is interested in. Maybe I'll write an article about where do the ideas come from. And so I pitched this to Mark, and I think he was sort of taken aback by the fact that I might write an article about ideas rather than great mechanisms and stuff. So I persisted, and I drafted an article, and I sent it to him, and I didn't hear too much back from the idea. And again, by the time I was writing my article, the format of the magazine had pretty much established. It was easy for me to see how things, the structure was and how things were done. And so I wrote up an article and I sent it in, and it was pretty easy to work with Mark. I didn't even know he had staff helping him because it went so smoothly. I just thought I had to convince him, but it actually went pretty well. And it was pretty painless, so I encourage you, if any of you, want to try something and have the chance of it being in the magazine, by all means, go right ahead and do it. I think the only thing that screwed me up, of course, is dropbacks. When Mike says send the photos, and of course you can't get them there unless they're. So I'm an old guy, and it takes me a while to figure out some of the new technology, so now I can work Dropbox fine. But I give you this little hint or advice that if you're thinking of a write article for Mark stuff, is that when I make stuff, I usually make something first. I do the prototypes, I work something, and I build it. And usually what happens when I build it, by the time it's finished, it's not what it looked like when it started. I sort of add stuff along the way. So normally I'm in this process of building one, and then if I want to sell a plan or do something like that, I make another one. And that's when I spend more time taking photographs with mind about how I put it together. So that's a key thing for, I think, for the magazine. If you're going to submit something, you want to make sure you get some pictures, good quality pictures, and talk about the tough things that are hard to explain, because we all know that a picture is worth a thousand words. And there's been some great photographs, and like I said, I still see stuff in the magazine that makes me go, how the hell did they do that, even with the best photographs. So I look forward to getting the magazine myself, and I encourage all of you to make the magazine even more diverse than it is today. I think it's great that we're getting into Lego stuff, and the Lego specialists, and papers, and all kinds of stuff. It's really fascinating reading, and I look forward to getting the magazine every month. So I really don't have too much more to say other than encourage you to do so. There's a couple samples of my work up here that are passed. This one's in Australia somewhere in the outback. There's a dentist that has this in his dental office. He wanted this dearly when I built it. So, and then this is built from a horse with a different color. The dog opens the door, the horse, every time the door opens, the horse is a different color. And kids are fascinated by this. And the two chickens I put in the front corner were to fill a space. Adults love the chickens. So that's on 3 more pieces where I use chickens. And so if you go to my site, you can see the history of all of that good stuff going on. This is a fairly recent piece. The last one on the slide here is New York City Sewer Symphony Rats. And only the dichotomy is the last person you expect to see playing a symphonic orchestra is a rat. And the 2 violinists on the end story, if you go to the website, there's a story behind it. They're thinking that the maestro isn't running the orchestra, that there's somebody down below that's pulling the strings, so to speak. And so they're peeking over the edge because they can squeal on them, because they know how much, because rats squeal, they know how much money the maestro makes, they're going to blackmail him and get a piece of the action. So, I mean, that goes with the premise that I like to write stories about the things I do, and the magazine is a good place to tell those stories, because they don't always come out on my website. So I'm going to pass my baton over to the next speaker. Tom, there you go.
Hi, I'm Tom Haney. I think the idea of the magazine is sort of a no-brainer, as is this convention, which grew out of a Facebook group. And somebody said, why don't we all get together, and thank God Brett stepped up and organized it and pushing it forward. And thanks to Mark for putting together a publication where we can share. It's kind of a different way to get together and share ideas and enthusiasm. I think Mark asked me to write about this piece, which was a commission from a psychologist up in the Boston area who has commissioned me for a number of different pieces. He has a lot of static pieces of mine that portray different phobias and issues with mental illness that he keeps in his office. But this was quite the most complex piece that he came up with, and I had to figure out how to make it. So I was happy to write an article and send in pictures. I often in the past have blogged about my pieces and showed kind of the steps of making my pieces. I really like to share. I mean, I'm not one of those people who like to keep secrets. I'm not inventing any of this. It's just combining that with this, and putting it together with my own spin and my own artistic style. So this is sort of a piece that hand cranked. A lot of my commissions, people want hand cranked because they want to touch the thing and operate it, which I would just as well make hand cranked pieces as opposed to things you turn on and off with a motor, because it's only moving when somebody's engaging with it. So this is, we have some pictures of the mechanism and the written about the mechanism, and just ideas that that he's given me, and it was my challenge to make his idea come to fruition. And I always love a challenge, so maybe, I think I can do it. It's like solving a puzzle or solving a mystery. And like I said, I love that there is this format and this idea out there that our community around the world can share ideas and bounce ideas off of, get tips, and there's so many aspects of Automata that it's just a great way to share, knowledge, which I love sharing knowledge. So